Stardate 03252022. Welcome to Star Trek Discovery Pod, a kind of smart, kind of funny podcast about new and classic Star Trek. I am the Borg Queen for the night, Mariah Gossett, and with me on the view screen, I have.
Oh, wait, is it? I guess it's just me, Clyde.
It's just Clyde.
That's weird.
It is just us for tonight. Mike has been assimilated into the collective, and he'll be trying to escape sometime for next week. We'll see if he is as powerful as Jurati to get out of the Borg Queen's hold.
We will see.
We will see. But tonight we are streaming the podcast live on YouTube as we have repaired our communication systems. Thank you all for being patient with us as we had some scheduling issues for yesterday. And we all thought we were going to make it tonight, but alas, it's just Clyde and I. But we're gonna make it happen. We're gonna chat with y'all. We love hanging out with y'all here on YouTube. It's a super fun time. We're going to talk about the 4th episode of Picard of season 2, The Watcher. Dun dun dun. Where we potentially, maybe we've seen The Watcher. I'm not convinced. We will find out. Clyde, how can people interact and chat with us on the podcast tonight?
Well, the easiest way is if you have things you want us to see, you want a comment you want us to mention, then in our live chat, just type capital P, capital O, capital D, capital pod in the chat, and we will take a look. And when we get to that special moment where we talk about those things that stood out to us, you too can give us yours by typing in capital H, capital F, capital HF in the pod, and we'll take a look at your thing.
Hot freak, if you will, which we'll explain here in a moment. But yes, please interact with us in the chat. We'd love to know what you thought about this particular episode. Also, you can check out StarTrekPod.co for all of the ways that you can interact with us, all the places that you can find how to, listen to the show, watch the show, all the things. You can also join us over on Patreon, patreon.com/StarTrekPod, where you can, for just $2 per episode, come hang out with us in the Slack. There's watch longs happening all week long. We're chatting theories. We're chatting discussions. We have all things going on over there. There's also some special Patreon only episodes about comic books. I think we got one more coming very soon about that as well. But for now, we are going to dig in and start talking The Watcher, which was directed by Leah Thompson, teleplay by Juliana James and Jane Maggs, story by Travis Fickett and Juliana James. But you know how we got to start all of these episodes with a little bit of a hot freak.
I like that one a lot better than the deep V Riker hot freak. I prefer much more of the Home Alone hot freak. Kind of works for me.
A flaming freak. But yes. Give me yours, Clyde. What do you think about this episode?
It's interesting because I think for some reason when I saw this episode was ready, I wasn't that excited about it. I don't know why I wasn't excited about it. I was really thinking when is Strange New World coming out? Paramount Plus just launched the new Halo series. I was like, I'm gonna get to this, and then I ended up getting to it, fairly early yesterday. And I was watching it, and my first thought was, I got Picard running around the city. Where's Rios? I was really much more interested in the Rios storyline. And Seven and Rafi drove me nuts. It made no sense to me. I mean, I guess it was kind of fun in a, Fast and Furious type of way. But the angry, irrational, I'm just gonna steal a police car, I don't know. I struggle with that one on so many levels. They drove around in the police car for a long time before anybody noticed, before anybody said anything, and then I'm just I don't know. That one's a little bit tough. And then when Picard walked into the bar, I immediately was thinking, oh my goodness, this is amazing. I was so excited. And then I realized that we were getting a different Guinan. And still processing that a little bit. Right? There was part of me that I was like, Whoopi, okay, this makes sense. Whoopi's back. Like, yes. And then it wasn't Whoopi. And it was like, I'm pretending to be young Whoopi. And I'm still not quite sure how I feel about that. And then I thought the for me, the last, I don't know, 5-10 minutes maybe was an interesting payoff. Like, I thought it was a great payoff. To your point, you say you're not sure if we've seen The Watcher. I think we've seen The Watcher, and I'm here for it. Yeah, so can I just go ahead and say, like, we all asked in episode 1, like, dang, no more Laris. We were asking for Laris.
Yep.
From the beginning of the first episode, we wanted more Laris. It definitely feels like this season they've listened to us on so many things that it's interesting. And then Q was Q. I could have done without that.
Yeah, it's so funny. I think like we had maybe a similar overall opinion about this episode, but of different things. So like
Okay.
I think about the metaphor I used for this episode when talking to my spouse yesterday was that I thought this was like you ever get like a Sicilian style pizza? Do you know what I'm talking about? Like it's like a square pizza. I was like, this was like a middle slice and I'm craving a corner.
Ooh,
Like it's not that it wasn't delicious and fun and there was things I enjoyed about it, but it was just like missing some edges that I really wanted.
Great analogy
on this particular episode, because I enjoyed Seven and Rafi's sort of escapades around the city. I like that we finally got Picard off of the ship. I'm very worried for Jurati and that whole situation. And I'm glad. I actually really enjoyed the different Guinan, and here's why: this is a different timeline, and I think because I've seen it done so many times where we get the de-aging of a classic character. Like I feel like all of the Star Wars series has really pushed this lately, is like these weird deep fake versions of characters we've come to know and love. You know what I mean? That I appreciated a well recast in that I felt like she lived up to that character in attitude and in portrayal. And I was fine with it. I was into it.
I'll say here's where it felt a little bit authentic for me, is that what she was referring to. Like it was an angry Guinan when she saw the plight of people.
Yes.
Particularly what I felt was she was referring to kind of racial discrimination and oppression. And this is, I'm just going to say it, right? And hope, if Whoopi's listening, she doesn't hate me forever. I think that Whoopi has a great voice, and I think that she has the ability to step out. But I also think that Whoopi has a lot to lose for really taking this to an edgy place and coming across as angry about this. Right. I mean, if realistically, she just got censored. Right. So you have a different actor who can really move into this edge in a way that I feel like it deserves to be. Right. And it has me excited about the storyline. So I was kind of like, how do I feel about them? Not like, to your point, I don't know that we need a de-aging of Whoopi, but we have this actor who is really bringing home and making me feel that they are frustrated with what they've seen, right? That they're disillusioned with humanity. And I thought it did a great job of bringing us to a place we needed to be that we've never really seen in Trek before, right? When we go back into Trek, rarely do we go back to Trek and comment on something that is so present and has been so alarming, right? When we think about how we, as particularly in America, how we've just become a culture of people of differences and rather a unified culture. and they're picking up on it. So I like that aspect, and I'm curious about that, and I'm curious about how, not to say it's a theory, but I'm looking and going, the big event that happens is that Guinan loses her faith in humanity, and
Yeah, I think.
and yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say I think you're on like an interesting track there, Clyde. Like I think there's something to how Guinan is interacting with Earth, but I think there's also something interesting about potentially her connection to that blonde woman that Q was hanging out with. That he's reading the newspaper and it's about, are we going to start going into space again? Right?
Yeah,
Is this something that's,
Europa something or another?
yeah, like in a Europa mission, this kind of stuff. And um, I think it is interesting within the context of what's happening even right now, right? Like right now we have less structure and funding for like government sanctioned space exploration, right? Like it's a big commercial sect that's happening right now. It's a lot of capitalism involved in getting to space right now. Um and so there could be some really interesting, I feel like they're building to some interesting commentary there, because we've now seen, I mean, like you're currently in Los Angeles, I'm in Los Angeles a few times a year. And so it's like we understand that there is and the same thing in Austin, right? Like there's unfortunately a very large population of unhoused people in a lot of major urban centers, right? So you're getting this disillusionment of like the wealth gap, wealth inequality, like all of these things that they're sort of setting up. And I know Deep Space Nine delved into a lot of this too, right? With the flashback episodes as well, into this very particular time where we have these uh, sanctuary zones and all of this kind of stuff. And so I think they're weaving an interesting web to get to connect, I think, to some of those Deep Space Nine plot points. But still centering it around this alternate timeline in a way, because that is the other big difference, though, is while all of these things did happen in Deep Space Nine, we are technically in a different timeline. So these writers are very clever in how they're making it so we can't draw too many connections, I think, to Trek of Past. But coming back to Guinan, because I think that was like a bigger shock to everyone. I think when you saw 10 Forward, you were expecting Whoopi Goldberg to be inside of that building. But yeah, I just to reinforce the fact that I thought it was one, good casting. I thought that the actress who portrayed her did a great job. Like what a giant mountain to climb as far as like a beloved character that you're having to portray.
Those are first of all, you've got to have a certain amount of confidence and ability to do that, because if you screw, especially with this fan base,
yes,
if you screw this up, you're a toast. Like, I don't want to say it's a career killer, but you will never live it down ever. Like there'll be people talking about you at conventions for the rest of your life and then some.
Yeah, it's got to be really intense. I was going to try to look back at some hot freaks we got from the audience.
Yes, there's one from Michael here. L that I liked about the Dixon Hill reference. What did you think about the Dixon Hill reference?
Oh, I got to find it. I'm scrolling.
This is at 712. 712. Okay. Or I guess for you it's 912.
912. The 12 helps. The 12 helps. We're finding it. Sorry, y'all. Giving me the con was probably a mistake on
no, Mariah is great as a captain.
I love the reference to Picard as Dixon Hill. Love the callback to the punk rock guy on the bus, even though it was fan service. I'm unclear on who the girl is in the end. I 100% don't I probably should have Googled. I don't get the Dixon Hill reference.
It's Picard. So, everybody on TNG has a preferred hollow suite thing. Dixon Hill was Picard's character when he went into his whole noir kind of detective. That was his character. That's what they called him, Dix. And Jurati, I think Jurati mentioned it. I didn't love it only because it immediately was like, how does she know that?
Oh, that is a good call. I mean, I
Like,
guess he's like pretty iconic, and if you've like read his file enough times, perhaps
biography or something, but
she seems to be really into Picard as dad, so maybe she's like trying to read up.
yeah. And yeah, I also wasn't. I mean, as you were talking, it made more sense. I was a little bit unclear of who the blonde that Q was talking to. I couldn't figure out if that was just some random person he was entertaining himself with, or she had a bigger part to play.
Yeah, I think I saw someone mention potentially it's a ancestor of Picard, which would be interesting.
Ooh.
But I did love the punk guy reference because the one with the whales is my favorite original Star Trek movie. And it's the same actor and it's the same song. So I thought
Huh.
that was fun. It was a cute Easter egg. I did enjoy that for sure. Let's check out some other
Oh
hot
wow. So
freaks.
at 14, King Kung says
Okay.
Amazon Prime X-ray lists her as Renee Picard.
There we go. Interesting.
Hmm.
And she was
This
mentioned by Picard in his Academy speech in the season opener.
Good. Now I gotta go back and watch that.
I know. Y'all are so smart. This is why I love our
Mhm.
watch along peeps, because they definitely find all of these tiny details that I don't have the time to look up right before these things. So I appreciate y'all so much. Um, let's see. In Star Trek Generations, he mentions Picard's who settled the first Mars colony. I wonder if Renee is part of that. Ooh, interesting theory,
Wow, you
Michael.
guys are on it, man.
You guys are really on it. Hot Freak, future punks are major pushovers. I wonder if he still has the memory of Spock, though, and perhaps the mind melt of Spock, if that happened within this timeline. That could be interesting. Let's see if there's any other hot freaks. Let's see, Pod. I was lukewarm on first watch, and on rewatch, I'm loving the app. I also think this is going to be a series I'm going to prefer in a binge model, and I
Mhm.
really almost wish I could get it because I think I would also be like running forward. But
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that, Mariah. I mean, if we weren't potting about this, I'm tempted to wait because Mike mentioned this before, but when we had the first three episodes as a kind of a preview, right?
mhm.
Binging this had a different feel to it. Like it was like it had it almost felt like the ability to binge it sped up the pacing a little bit for me.
Yeah, because it's like a lot of these feel like I mean, and that is a series, right? I think
Mhm.
it's hard to both want like a beginning, middle, and an end of every single episode, which is something I do crave a little bit. I understand that these are serialized, they're not episodic. I enjoy that part of New Trek. But I definitely wish there was like something got tied up in some way, shape, or form. But I guess we did get communications back on board. So we at least have that kind of happening. And so now we've solved that problem, right? As the big one that's been solved this episode. I did want to ask you what you thought. You said you were really intrigued by the Rios kind of
Mhm.
storyline that was happening in this episode. And so I wanted to get some of your thoughts on sort of what he's going through and his potential love interest in this new little doctor character.
So, one, I think for some reason, this track pulling on some things that are relevant in our time period for whatever reason just works for me. I'm not quite sure why, but I feel like if you're maybe it's a trek that if you're gonna go back in time, you're gonna go back in time and you're gonna deal with what was relevant in that age and the fact that they've gone back to basically our present and they can do social commentary on mass deportation and social injustice. I don't know, I'm just all for it. I'm thinking, well, what a great way to use your platform. And so I'm fascinated. I'm also, anytime I can look inside the lives of someone else and learn something, you got me interested every bit of time. So for me, the mystery of what happens when ICE shows up and puts you on a bus is I'm just looking, going, don't screw this up. Here's your opportunity to really inform the public. Don't screw this up. So I'm interested in that from I guess a plot point. as far as Rios and his love interest, I like her.
Yeah.
I like her.
I'm hoping she plays like an interesting part in them correcting the timeline.
Mhm.
I agree with you, Clyde. I really I feel like they are both handling it in a fairly delicate way, but also letting like essentially it's not like someone else telling the story of someone else in a way, right? Like these
Mhm.
are characters who are living in this reality who are then able to kind of inform us about what some of these probably a nicer version of what the reality actually is, right? Like it's still the TV version
Mhm.
of a lot of this. Um, and unfortunately, I think a lot of people have forgotten that this is still happening. Like just because the person in charge is has changed at the head honcho level doesn't mean
Mhm.
things have fully changed all the way down the chain of command and
Right.
like
Right.
all of this is still happening. Um, I did really love Rios just being like, "Yeah, I'm the captain of a starship." Like,
Name the Stargazer. Like
yeah.
he's like he did everything.
I was just like, "Oh, what is this gonna set into motion?" You know, because he's now revealed these things and
Mhm.
like what's gonna happen from there. Obviously, the guy's like, "Oh, you're just crazy. I'm putting you on a bus, right? Like you are making up this gigantic story." But it's honestly a fairly logical way to progress, right? He's like, I'm telling you the truth. Like, you can
Mhm.
put me on a lie detector. I'm telling you the truth of what my situation is, even if you don't believe me, right? Um, I am worried about this extra communicator. Where has that one gotten to? And could
I,
that potentially be an issue later?
so I'll tell you one. I think her son has it, and I
Mm-hmm.
think at some point he might end up on that ship, and
Interesting.
that could be a whole nother thing that sparks a line. Uh,
Do you remember perhaps the ending of my favorite Star Trek original series movie and how we ended up with someone coming back to the future from the past?
mhm.
You know, potentially there's something there.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing I was going to say is I love the way they've given us this ability to look at this situation, right? Like here's the thing. There's a lot of ways if you want to look at undocumented people in our country, there's a lot of ways you can look at it. But the idea that you've taken someone who we already liked, right? Who we know, and you're deep kind of displaced them in time. And so of course because they're displaced in time, they don't have any
Documentation.
documentation.
Mhm.
That was brilliant. That was a really safe way to get everybody to kind of identify and clue in to what this experience might be like, right? Without stepping on any political landmines. It was really smart.
Yeah.
And so I thought they did a good job. So it'll be interesting.
Um, I did enjoy the Rafi and Seven. We're gonna go talk about how inept the police force is in this
Oh my
particular time
goodness.
period. We're also gonna steal a police cruiser and just have a jaunt through Los Angeles traffic. Which I was like, I don't even know how you're getting up to that amount of speed. I don't think I ever made it over 35 miles per hour on most surface level
Right?
streets. So like where are you driving? Um I did wish though, because I was just like, I feel like seven is more uh adaptable in some ways, or like at least smarter to be like, how do we not draw attention to ourselves and still like drive around in this police cruiser? Like, yes, you need to get away fast, but like we're crashing into a lot of things, we're going the wrong way in traffic. And I get that this wasn't like her universe that she existed in, but I feel like she's smart enough to figure out how to blend in a little bit better. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and say it. Look, as a black man, I have certain feelings about aggressiveness around police. And so their behavior, hey, let's just break this window. Could you have, I couldn't, but what'd be like just that complete disregard for that probably made me uneasy.
Mm,
And that's probably personal for me the entire time. Right. Like it was just like I was literally like, like, whoa, like, are they gonna be okay? And eventually I start to settle in, but that was tough for me personally.
yeah. I mean, yeah, that was probably like as it's interesting to see the difference between like how the kind of, I guess, more nuance perhaps being handled in Rio's situation versus like,
Mhm.
granted, like Seven and Rafi don't know what's sort of happening as far as like police brutality and stuff, right, in this timeline, or at
Mhm.
least probably aren't as familiar. But the fact that you have Rafi yelling at a police officer in a police headquarters and then breaking a window, and yeah, I agree with you. I was
I
very
was
nervous the whole
freaked
time.
out the whole time. Like I was just like, like I it's just it was a bit, it was a lot. Like I'm
Yeah.
just gonna be honest, it was a lot for me.
Yeah, you got like
Um,
queer women. You have a black queer
mhm.
woman in the front seat, like stealing stuff from a police headquarters. Like this could be very bad.
And we've already seen ICE agents mistreat people,
Yes.
right? So it's not like I'm going, well, I haven't had, like you've already like primed me to worry.
Right.
And so yeah, that was a bit of a, it was just hard. That was hard for me. I felt the sigh of relief that I gave when that transporter got them out of there. It was just like, okay, now I can enjoy the rest of this.
Yeah. Like Puds 38 just said, especially when Rafi revealed she had a phaser. I mean, they confuse cell phones for guns when you're black. It's a very, very solid point.
Yep.
If the police had been able to catch up with the two of them, that was
And and on a
intense.
personal note, I really just wanted them to calm down, sit down somewhere, and talk this thing out, and just like just relax for a second, because everybody was just so
I know, especially because they're then waiting for the teleportation system to work. I can see
Mhm.
why you would want to start trying to make progress into the right direction, right? But if she's like, I need an hour, couldn't you then just like, I don't know,
Get a cup of coffee.
like just start walking in the general correct direction and wait for the
Yeah.
transporters to start working? Um, I think they're leaning pretty heavily on like Rafi having this like big guilt over Elnor and wanting to like solve the problem as quickly as possible to get Elnor back. Because there's definitely, I think, some residual guilt over how she mothered her son and then now has this sort of second chance opportunity, and now that has been taken from her. So I think Rafi's going through a lot in this in this
That's
season
fair.
so far. Um, I did want to go back to Jurati and the Borg Queen and their interactions they're having with each other. And do you trust the Borg Queen to help
Not
her?
even a little bit. Like this is so bad. Like I'm looking, going, she's interested in you. You're an expert in cybernetics. Like, yeah, this isn't like, I don't see a way out, a positive result for Jurati in this, right? And to me, that opens up a whole nother timeline and path of Jurati as, the mother of the Borg Queen, right? Or
Mhm.
like, we thought Locutus was bad. Jurati's on a whole nother level.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, I mean, the hesitations I would have as Girardi would be around what if the Borg Queen brought us to this timeline because this is how she gets Girardi as a part of the collective, and
Hmm.
it's solely been a selfish um like foray back into the past on her own. Now is this like wildly uh quite a hop skip and a jump to get to there? Yes, but there could also be an interesting um I don't know, just like an underlying motivation of like, oh, if I take them back here, not only do they fix their present, the Borg still exist, but I also get this thing that I now want. And I've seen a lot of talk about theories about this other Borg queen from the first episode. And some people were saying, oh, it could be Picard's mom in some way. But lately, I've seen a lot of people talking about it potentially being Girardi. And I feel like that could be a strong theory, could be a
That's
strong theory.
that's where I'm at.
It could be very interesting.
I mean, because she hit on something that I thought they set up really well, right? So we see that Jurati for a while now is this outsider, this loner, right? That even at the party, what we saw was, we saw this drunk Jurati
Mhm.
moving around, isolated, right? Like she just kind of moves around where she seems a little just, I mean, I hate to say lonely, but she seems a little like, I don't know, isolated, wallflower kind of person. When you think about where they've shown her as a character, like that's the perfect kind of personality that would thrive in a hive. Right? Like that is going to be so alluring to someone like that.
She's primed to join a cult, and the cult in this case is
I
the Borg.
didn't want to say it like that, but I was thinking it. That's exactly what I was thinking. Like, yes, no. So I agree with it. So to me, it makes so much sense that if it didn't happen, I'd be surprised, and I'd probably be asking like, why not? Like, why didn't you go there?
I think, and I feel like, especially because I do know they're doing a third season, right? And then that's it. So this whole series will come to an end at the end of the third season. So they're setting up, I think, a couple of things for going into that as well. And so I think for a long time, Picard has probably, besides Seven, felt fairly lonely in his experience in being someone who's been deprogrammed from the Borg, like stripped from the collective, right? And has had this very specific experience. And I think having Jurati go through that experience as well would kind of create this very interesting, parental like bond between the two of them in a way, which I think is where they've been sort of directing those two characters' relationship.
Yeah.
It would be.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just vamping until I had another thought.
Oh, I was going to say, Marge says, weird that the Queen is completely ignoring Seven. I actually don't think it's that weird. I think that when I think about even Locutus or Data, right? This is going to sound cruel. Seven's a bit of a drone, right? Like, but what you look at Picard, what you look at Jurati is something really unique that would be added to the Borg collective that they haven't had, that's honestly worth assimilating. They've had Seven, right? It's like they've had her.
The Borg Queen's looking for the next shiniest object, right? That could be very interesting. I also wanted to, with the Borg Queen, I feel like Jurati essentially promised. What did Jurati sort of promise to the Borg Queen in this episode? There was that interesting interaction between the two of them where she's like, if you help me do this, you get me. And so what do you think Jurati means by that?
It sounded like she meant like in between us fixing this and doing this, I'll be your hive, right? We'll talk and we'll share and stuff like that is what I took it. But then she walked out and like left her by herself. So I'm not sure what's happening there.
I think it's going to get very, very weird and very complicated on that ship very fast.
Yes.
But we did finally have Picard also leave the ship in search of the Watcher, because now the rest of the crew is on the search for Rios. So we have to have somebody actually going forward with this mission, because Jurati and Picard have figured out at this point that they have 3 days, right? 3 days in order to fix the future. Great timeline. We're going to keep it succinct. And it's I remember I looked up, it's tax day, so like the day that the world goes to crap is going to be tax day, which I feel like is on par, honestly. And now we have Picard searching for this Watcher. So Guinan essentially takes Picard to Echo Park to go meet up with somebody, which, if you don't live in Los Angeles, is a beautiful park, but for a long time has had a very complicated fixture within the city of Los Angeles. So it's like interesting spot to pick.
It's funny that it's so interesting that you mentioned that, because as someone who is new to Los Angeles, that was a landscape that the minute I saw it, I was like, I was looking around like, it's Echo Park. Like I know where that's at. Like that's a landscape I remember. And I was like, there's no one for me to tell. I should have texted you. Like now that I think about it, I'm like,
Echo Park.
I should have been like, Mariah, did you see? That was Echo Park. I knew the fountain. But I was just kind of in my own thoughts. I was like, it's just,
but yeah, fun times if you get to visit those spots. Now we could go, Clyde. We could reenact. We could get some white contacts for our eyes,
and just walk around and
just walk
talk
around
to people very strangely.
That would be quite the funny interaction.
That
But
was it was kind of an interesting scene though. I was fascinated by it.
yeah, and this presence essentially inhabiting all of these different people to lead Picard to a point when then nobody was watching, and the Watcher was convinced that no one was following him, that they then could be teleported to wherever this is going to happen. But the reason I am not sure if this Laris lookalike is truly the Watcher is because the of the white eyes.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, because every single person had that same gaze and look and thing about them. So it could potentially be the Watcher, but I'm not sure if it's actually Laris. Like, I'm wondering if the Watcher took the form of Laris because it's what's
Hmm.
familiar to Picard in order to gain trust to then snatch him to go wherever they needed to go. Um, or perhaps the Watcher has the ability to take multiple forms and can shapeshift. And so the form of Laris without the Romulan ears is something that would work in both to build trust for Picard and to fit in on Earth. So I'm not fully convinced it's going to be actually Laris when we get to wherever we're going, but I'm glad that the actress is back and
Well,
like however we're going to interact with her.
well, I just thought it was interesting because to me I was like, oh, what we're the payoff is going to be they're going to change the future, and in the future he and Laris are going to be together. This is better than that. Like this is why they're the writers and I'm
Mhm.
not. Like this was like, okay, you're like kudos. Like now I again from a binge mode standpoint, I want to know what happens next. Like I think that's the interesting thing about this is it is set up a little bit like this was built for like Netflix, right?
Mhm.
Where Netflix is the last few minutes are so enticing that you go, okay, let me just watch a little bit more,
Yes, the
right?
the cliffhanger, right? We've been getting a lot of cliffhangers
A
this
lot of
season.
cliffhangers, like just so much so that you end up just it plays and plays and plays. That's what I felt like. And so now I'm like, I can't wait to next Thursday, right? Can't wait to see a little bit more of what happens next. You know,
Yeah,
why can't Q snap his fingers?
yes, that was the next thing is Q being unable to snap his fingers and make whatever he needed to happen in that particular moment, and him also looking fairly shocked that this was happening. So is it that this timeline has now changed his potential future, which could be interesting?
Yeah.
Um, or I
It,
saw somebody online commenting, is it possible that Q's could perish and what would cause them to die?
hmm. I just assume that, you know, Q in this timeline, Q hasn't gotten like the Thanos glove, so he doesn't have his snap down yet. But it's gonna be this is gonna be the Star Trek Marvel crossover, and it's gonna be fine. It's gonna be great.
Yeah, I don't think Disney, Paramount, CBS will ever let us have something that cool. But it would be fun.
That that would that would be a fun like one-off episode. That would
Because I
be
did
fun.
see the guy who played the punk on the bus, I guess, also has something to do with a Marvel franchise. I
Mm.
can't remember off the top of my head. I saw something
That
on the interwebs about it. And so someone was like, "Oh, are we finally getting the crossover?" And I was like, "That ain't gonna happen, but could be fun."
that his whole comment of like, I just like the song was just like what? It's one of those moments I'm like, what is happening in this script? Like there are all these little bitty Easter eggs that are just like if you guys must be right. I think if I on the rewatch, this is gonna be amazing.
Yeah, I think I'm hoping it'll help tie a lot of things together a little bit quicker too on the rewatch. But um I did so yeah, we got left on quite a few cliffhangers. We had Picard essentially getting whipped up into an energy ball. We had Rafi and Seven kind of waiting for this bus to come by, and they have to figure out a way to get Rios off of the bus without altering too much of the timeline in the wrong way. And
Yeah.
what is that
Shooting
standoff
a
going to
bus
look
with a
like?
phaser in front of a bunch of people is probably
Right.
not the best way to go.
Probably not going to work out super well. And then we have Jurati essentially storm out, and we have an angry Borg queen. So at this point, we still have to find the Watcher. We still have to save humanity. We have to save Rios. We have like all of these very high stakes continuing to build in this moment. What are you hoping we get to see next week?
I think first and foremost, we get a Rios breakout. I think that's going to be exciting. I'm expecting that we'll get a reunification of the team, and I think we're going to get a little bit of clarity on who this Laris, not Laris character is. And because they do a lot, I think we're going to see some sinister activity from the Borg Queen. Like, I feel like we've had 2 episodes where she hasn't really gone rogue. I think we're going to get some sinister activity from the Borg Queen.
I do feel
What about
like
you?
I think you're right. I feel like the Queen is slowly regaining her powers as the ship starts to sort of activate. I'm hoping we're going to get a little bit more insight into why Picard specifically has to come back and fix this, right? Because Q kept kind of hyping up that this has something to do with him. And so if the Watcher specifically is someone who is directly linked to Picard, I'm hoping we get a little bit more insight into what that is, because I'm worried we're going to keep building up these stakes and it's going to be like, oh, Picard had to learn how to love, which feels a little like
wah.
Granted, very important. It's very important. You learn how to love other people in whatever form that is, in friendship, in romance, in family. All of those things matter. But when you're telling me we have to save the entire universe from becoming a totalitarian regime off of one person learning how to love, I feel like that's a lot. So I'm hoping we get a little insights into what that's going to look like. But I have been enjoying the ride, and I do also need to see Rios and Agnes kind of hash out their qualms, because we did leave off their sort of romantic journey last season, and this season they've been doing a little, kind of attitude tete-a-tete, but we haven't gotten to really fully see what happened there and how that all went down and what the status of that relationship is. So I wouldn't mind seeing that come back in some way. But yeah, what do y'all think? What's going on, chat? What thoughts you have? What are we going to do
Nicole is
here?
with you. She says next week she needs more Rios and Agnes / the Queen, so she's right there with you.
I'm into that. Kyun says Q hanging out with one of Picard's ancestors who was instrumental in space exploration is as suspicious as heck. Is the Watcher watching Rene Picard? This could be, is this like ancestral trauma? Are we going to be talking about my favorite subject to put into Trek these days, which is having to heal the past in order to pursue the present, which is what they've been using in all the marketing terms?
I would like that a lot more than he has to learn how to love.
Yeah, could be better to be like, let's prevent. Ooh, this could be interesting, because we do know that Sir Patrick Stewart does a lot of work around spousal abuse, right? And sort of what happens in homes around that, because of his own personal connection to that with his father. And we've now sort of set up that Picard's father in this particular universe was potentially abusive. So perhaps this is where the abusive ancestry starts, is from this person, and it just continued to get passed down. And how do you stop that cycle from continuing? Again, I'm not sure how it plays out into a full totalitarian regime, but little things do change a lot into the future. So if it's this person gets into a bad relationship and it stops her from going to space, and it stops space exploration from pursuing because she was going to discover a thing that led to the next thing that led to like warp drive or something, all of that could be possible. I'm down for them to build out the chain of events that leads to why we had to come here.
Completely agree. This will be an interesting ride.
Yes. All right, let's see. Is there anything else from the chat you wanted to point out here?
Nicole mentioned that the whole Watcher thing, jumping from person to person, reminded her of the Denzel movie Fallen.
Oh.
I agree. I wasn't going to mention it because I don't think it's a great movie, but it did have this kind of creepy take over someone's body, like kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I think there was also an original series episode that had like a presence. I mean, there's like the classic one, which is like the salt vampire that could like change into the different formations of different people. But I feel like we got another episode in the original series as well, where there was like an entity that could kind of take over different corporeal bodies to talk to different people. I'll have to look it up. If someone remembers in the chat, please post it there. But yeah, anything else to kind of add on here, Clyde?
No, I thought it was a good episode. All in all, we'll see what happens next. I'm excited to find out.
Yeah, same. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. We really appreciate your patience in having us stream on Friday night instead of Thursday. We will be back next week. Our plan is to be back on Thursday night, regular night, pending any changes in our temporal timelines. So hopefully not. We also have a Strange New World to look forward to in May. That's coming up. Pretty exciting.
Yep.
Get to see what's going on over there. Hopefully we get a full trailer. I know we've gotten some teasers, but I'd love to see a full trailer soon for something like that. And I know Star Trek Chicago is happening, I believe, in the next few weeks. I will not be attending, but hopefully if you join our Patreon, you can get in touch with some people and see who is going to be hanging out in Chicago, make some fun connections. I know some of our friends over at Strange New Pod are going to be heading up there. So there's some fun people there. But visit us at patreon.com/Star Trek Pod, and you can find a way to interact with us there. You can also visit StarTrekPod.co to find all the links for subscribing and for our videos. Clyde, how else can people interact with us on the internet?
Well, you can always hang out with us at Star Trek Pod on Twitter and on Insta. Shout out to Karen, who runs our Insta.
We appreciate it. I think she runs our Twitter, technically.
Twitter, sorry.
We appreciate it, Karen. She's been making some cool graphics with some fun kind of quotes from this episode in particular, where we got to hear some good zingers from that writer's room. So thanks again, everybody. Live long and prosper. We'll see you next time.